Welcome back. No doubt elections in South Africa, it's hotly contested. Understatement, isn't it? Political parties and independent candidates, they've put themselves out there, up for scrutiny in the battle for public office. But how important is it then for those aiming to occupy public office to pay attention to their branding strategies, even if election day is around the corner? To discuss, we're joined by Tshepo Matseba, a branding specialist. Mr. Matseba, good to have you on the program. Welcome.
Good morning, Blaine. Thank you for the opportunity. Great to have a chat.
I guess the issues are seemingly obvious. It's about water, it's about electricity, it's about safety, it's bread and butter issues. But does it matter to the voter how these issues are framed and who is actually framing the discussions? So the how and the who, material?
Absolutely, but I would extend it to say that electricity or power or energy actually is an economic factor. A lot of businesses cannot operate effectively and they cannot reach their business goals with profitability without sustainable energy. And so it's not probably bread and butter as we see it. The messaging, I think, matters, especially when you look at an organization such as the ruling party, the ANC. They've had a lot of speed wobbles with regards to a lack of funding to do things like outdoor advertising, but they've used their traditional strength of door-to-door campaigns when you look at the kind of leadership capability that they've deployed around the country, led by President Cyril Ramaphosa. And to that end, they are an interesting party now, closer to the election to observe, even though they were slightly risking to become little Johnny came in a bit late.
The political space is highly contested in South Africa. Political marketing in the modern era, Tshepo, how has it changed over the years?
Oh, yes. So in the past, as I say, the good old days, if we call it, in South Africa at least, the discussion has been really about walking to people, seeing people face to face. But when you look at what the platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube has done to the political landscape, particularly Twitter, you begin to have an opportunity to have constructive conversations with people. There's now an opportunity for anybody to become a broadcaster on Twitter Spaces. And so the landscape has shifted significantly. But it has also moved from hunger type of political talk towards more sustainable economic change, where people are asking if a brand is a promise fulfilled, what is it that you have fulfilled and that you are going to fulfill as a political party, as a political organization, as a leader in the past, and what you're going to fulfill in the future. And so the days or the era of manipulative politics in SA has shifted. Messaging has become more intelligent. Voters are actually more interested right now in sustainable change, and hence you hear discussions about how you are going to transform my life today and how you're going to transform my life into the future.
Yeah, it's all about getting to that better place, isn't it? In South Africa, political parties are often referred to using the words big or small political parties. I'm sure you've heard this. And that tends to mean a whole lot of different things to a whole lot of different people, right? Some people like that label, some don't. But when we talk about brand image, does that narrow the gap between the so-called big and small parties, especially from a stylistic point of view?
Beyond doubt, if you look at an organization like Action South Africa that has just emerged out of nowhere, they're probably less than 2 years old, with Yaman Mashawa as their leader. They have demonstrated the strength of and the power of using digital communication to get their message across. But also when you look at the outdoor activity, what you see on street poles and what you see on billboards, you see two organizations consistently. You see Action South Africa, especially in Gauteng. You see Action South Africa, and when you turn from Sandton Drive towards William Nicol, you see a massive EFF billboard. I don't know who is funding the EFF, but I mean they must have access to some serious capital to do the kind of branding that they've been doing since the election date was announced. And so there is a sense here that you get that the big parties are not necessarily as big on digital platforms and not necessarily really as big in the eye of the voters in terms of the power to have the crucial conversations. If you look at organizations such as the DA and the extent to which every message that they have is about opposing the ANC or the EFF, they seem like a lost baby. For us, we think they are failing to capitalize on the opportunity of the struggles of the ruling party. Instead, they are investing a lot of time and money on promoting the opposition that they are actually supposed to oppose.
I'm sure they might disagree with you, sir, but we will see with regards to how this plays out in the political space. What about independent candidates? How can they stand out as a brand? What are the distinctive cues that tend to attract voters to individual candidates?
Matseba is one. South Africa presents a different opportunity, and it's been interesting. They are also still new and young, and he says that he represents a group of independent candidates. The other day I was in a printing store, and I met an independent candidate for the first time in my entire life. And so it's interesting to see that the independent candidates are having conversations. So whether they are going to have scale is a different matter. In this specific election is a different matter. Whether they're going to have an impact in this specific election is also a different matter. But you can certainly see that they bring a level of activism. They are helping South Africa to upgrade the conversation from just party politics into service, real service delivery issues that people are dealing with every day.
What emotions, with regards to emotions, right, and elections, where a person's head and heart are when picking a candidate or political party, what do politicians, what do they generally tap into that tends to convince or persuade a voter?
Between the ages of people who are between the age of 18 and 39, in that space, you need a little bit more than just emotions, because that voter in South Africa has shifted a bit from the political loyalty of the past. They've shifted significantly. But the emotional issue in South Africa is the two or three key components: the question of access to education, the question of access to jobs, the question of access to housing, quality housing, and the important question of the land. And you will see that some organizations, especially the EFF, of course, they play very hard into the question of the land. But when you observe across all political parties, everyone is talking about change. Even the organizations that are actually ruling today, they're talking about change. And it will be interesting to see how that talk about change is going to impact the results.
Tshepo, look, always instructive. We thank you very much indeed for your time. We got to go. We've got a developing story on our watch, but we thank you very much indeed for coming on and giving us your insight. Be well.
Thank you so much.
All right.